Hey, kids. You're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I'm your host, Joe. It is a party cast. We got a lot of people here. Brooke's here, Pernell is here, Chris is here, and Tim is here. How is everybody doing?
It's not. I'm pretty good now that I got first billing. Finally, yes.
I like to mix it up every now and then.
I noticed that. That's really good of you.
I try.
Like we started here, now we here.
Well, we have a special guest joining us as well today. Tyler Glaiel, how are you doing today, sir?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good.
For the people who don't know who you are, give us a quick rundown of who you are and what brings you to the show tonight.
So I'm a game developer. I made a game called Closure, Bombernauts, The End Is Nigh, and I'm currently working on a game called Mewgenics. That's not going to be out for another 2 years or so. Anyway.
I reviewed The End Is Nigh for this very show.
Oh, you did? Did you give it a good score? I don't.
Yes. I heartily recommended it.
Cool, because if not, I'd just be out of here already.
Like I'm done with.
I'd be like,
Yeah, these guys suck. Click.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be wrong.
Joe, you need to try and get Gilson B. Pontus on this show.
No, we don't.
God, please do.
No, that would be awkward.
That's why it would be fun.
So, Tyler, you put out a call on Twitter that you were looking for podcasts to join to talk about Elden Ring from a game developer standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was sort of a joke tweet, but also not really a joke tweet. Because I see all these sites being like, here's someone's opinion on Elden Ring. I'm like, why didn't you ask me about my opinion on Elden Ring?
I love how you also say it's a joke, but not a joke. It's equivalent to the guy that's like, man, I could sure go for $1 million right now, and at the same time,
yeah,
I'm gonna say no.
I've tweeted stuff like that as well. It has not had as many people biting.
And of all the wishes to come true, your genie in the bottle gave you the SML podcast.
Yeah, that's a really shit luck. I'm really sorry about that.
But I'm saying, don't give up.
It's a real monkey's paw situation.
Yeah.
I love monkey's paw. I love that. That's awesome.
Only the monkey's paw, the middle finger is coming up.
Oh, jeez.
Awesome.
I could sure go for a podcast guesting. Whoop. Oh, fuck.
So, Pernell, Brooke, Tim, you are the Elden Ring connoisseurs of the show. What kind of questions do you have about the game that a game developer might have insight on?
Honestly, I don't really have a question in the sense so much as just general perspective inquiries in the sense of okay, a lot of people say things like, the open world in this game is unparalleled compared to other open world exploration games. Now, of course, the idea of playing this as a general game player, I'm having a great time, but at the same time, I am still finding myself occasionally going, this is pretty typical for an open world game. It's just they did a really good job with it, which is why it's still awesome, right? But from your perspective, do you feel as though they did a great, exceptional job compared to how other guys designed it? Do you feel as though just from playing the game itself that you can spot any sort of challenges they likely had that they achieved in doing so? I said a lot of words, so if I need to know.
Yeah. So you're asking what actually makes it different than other open world games, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because I don't play that many open world games. I liked Breath of the Wild, and I've given tries to some other ones out there that have just not hooked me that much. So most of the comparisons are going to be to Breath of the Wild or what I have played of Fallout and Skyrim. Not Skyrim. I played Oblivion. Never played Skyrim because I hated Oblivion.
Chris is crying on the inside right now.
But yeah, so there's a thing where every time an open world game gets announced and they show it on like E3 or whatever, it's a height map with trees on it, and that's every open world game is just showing off how good their height maps look. And that's like a game developer thing, where like a height map is sort of like you have a flat plane and then you like pull a mountain out of it. So there's only like, it's still technically a flat plane, it just has like hills and stuff on it. There's no like caves or like overhangs or interesting geometry, and it's basically a 2D. Yeah, it's basically a 2D world because the height map is just
Definitely the horses in Skyrim prove that the entire game is flat.
Yeah, that's what a height map is, and all the open world games, it's how you make a huge world, is you have a height map that is gigantic, and someone goes in and like paints mountains onto it from like a top-down view, like a picture. And Elden Ring, there's definitely height maps in there, but they do a really good job of like disguising it and putting actual geometry and overhangs and stuff, so it doesn't feel like a height map with trees on it. It feels like an actual like modeled and designed world with interesting geometry and like interesting layouts and stuff. Like if you see a mountain in the distance, the way to get to the mountain isn't always clear, whereas in other games, you just walk there. You just go straight towards the mountain.
That's a very good point, because there have been a couple times where I'm like, okay, I see the little peak up there, and by virtue of how you design the game, there's a way to get there, but at the same time, it's like, but how exactly do I do it? Because it's not so straightforward. My ass beat. Oh, that's a fun joke about this thing. By the side note too, like I'm generally using the time that we talk about the game to play the game because time is precious. And
Pernell.
This is a prime excuse to be like, I can do this and not be taking away from something else. I can talk and play at the same time.
Wow.
So, Tyler, is there anything that you see in Elden Ring as a developer standpoint that you see and you're just like, why did they do that?
Oh, yeah, plenty. Like, this is what happens when you play games that you like. Like, if you play a game that you hate, you're just like, oh, I hate everything. But, like, what specifically do you hate? I don't know, I just hate everything. But if you play games that you, like, enjoy, you can be like, oh, well, this weapon needs to do, like, 2 extra damage and should scale with this stat. It's like, you don't get that level of, like, criticism of like the minor aspects of a game without like liking the game a lot. But
that makes sense. Do you
like
only have sorry.
Yeah, there's like some bosses towards the end of the game that are like make you question why. I don't know. Is like how far have you played? Is there spoilers for like
For me, there's spoilers. I'm level 32, baby. I'm looking at like what? I'm like 80 hours in. I think I'm like a psychopath.
Oh my god.
This game. That's what my thing says. There's been a couple work days where I kind of like leave it on all day and come back to it, but like.
Tim's like, those are baby numbers.
No, I'm at 75 hours, but I'm like level 100. But I like
2 last night.
I like just got. I still have a ton of the game left to go. Like I've barely done anything going up to the Altus plateau. I've barely like even started exploring that region yet because I've been going underground and just really squeezing all the life of every area that I've been in thus far.
Same.
Which is great. And it's like I was going through Limgrave, which is, the starting kind of area the other day. And like, I found a grace right off the path that I didn't find before. It was just sitting right there. I just didn't happen to like go through that little nook of trees where it was sitting. And I was just like, yep. Just still finding random stuff, even in this area that I've crisscrossed, and thought I did everything in.
Yeah, I'm finding stuff on the 3rd character that I started up that I never found on the other 2. That's kind of crazy.
Up this game too, like the idea that you're just running around doing stuff. And there are people out there that are busting out the FAQs and all. They want to make sure they get every little tidbit. And me, I'm the guy that's like, honestly, sometimes I am that guy. But in this particular case, I like not knowing where things are. And I like the fact that, frankly, I'll miss a lot of shit and not care because the stuff that I did see has been really cool. And I discovered it on my own in my own sort of mini adventure, an adventure that's uniquely mine. And as far as like the spoiler territory go, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, I'm not that far in the game. Well, I'm far as hours go, but not as far as like distance. But
Yeah.
By the time I get to whatever you're talking about, I'm not gonna remember a damn thing.
No. I'll avoid I'll still avoid spoilers because it's not that important. I just because you asked about things that I didn't like, which is basically towards the end of the game, some of the bosses have a couple of ridiculous, impossible to dodge moves.
Oh, those are
one of the bosses specifically does, but it's not a huge deal. And then the rest of the game, the other 120 hours of the game is really fun and really good. So that bit is doesn't matter. And then I guess mechanically the thing that I wish that they would do is get rid of the weapon upgrading. And that's a weird thing because I don't the weapon upgrading is cool except for when you're 50 or 60 hours into the game and you find a cool new weapon that you want to use and it looks awesome and it does 1/10 of the damage of the dagger that you upgraded from the start of the game. So if they just need some way to upgrade the anvil instead of the weapons or whatever so that you can still have that progression but not be locked into the one weapon that you found that you
that makes sense.
That's it. I think that was just the weapon upgrading was just borrowed from Dark Souls without too much thought on how it would work in an open world game.
It's funny because it is a lot way simpler than it was in the past. And that they only have 2 upgrade materials for weapons as opposed to a dozen they had in Demons. They've been streamlining it.
And you can switch the infusions whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
They did all that good stuff, and then you still have to they recently patched it, but it used to cost 500,000 runes to fully upgrade a weapon from buying the stones. But they recently changed it, so it's 100,000, so it's more reasonable now.
Yeah, I understand how it's at a certain point you want to make the highest level materials hard to find, but early on, when smithing stones were not in abundance, and I'm just sitting there well, I guess I have to keep using the weapon that I upgraded and not all the cool stuff I'm finding.
Yeah.
And they did make them easier or purchasable earlier, but I was still just come on, I get it,
I feel almost jealous of you guys though, because as I'm playing now, I mean, so put in perspective here. Like I said, I'm about 30 hours into the game. And I was using the same staff that you start the game with, and I'm using a flail that I got off of a cart in the third area of the game. So I haven't been really finding weapons that I can really use because I'm not sure how I should level up my stats to accommodate stuff. So I've just been dragging all my materials around with me while using the same level 2 flail. And when Joe was oh yeah, we're going to have such on the show to talk Elden Ring, I was shit, I haven't been playing Elden Ring. I had to go. I just
reviewing games
last night, and I surprisingly finally found my first new staff in the entire game, and I don't want to upgrade it because I'm not feeling comfortable with the stats that it gets buffed based off of. So I'm well, maybe I should just rein it in, which means I'm still lugging around the original staff. And I'm still not leveling stuff up. It's just, I feel
and you're gonna probably have that till the end of the game. So
This is a good opportunity for me to ask a question I already have for y'all about weapons and leveling up stuff. So this is baby's first Souls game over here for me. I've never done any in the franchise before, and I've never played a game that has as steep of a learning curve on fighting that frankly I have to worry about weapon upgrades. So right now, I'm 32, I'm rocking the Lord Sword's Great Sword, and I keep expecting to come across some magical weapon. I'm over here I've upgraded it twice, and that's made combat really hard for me, but I've been trying to save my shit for when I find a really special cool looking weapon, and then I never find anything that I love. So then finally today, last night, I definitely wasn't playing while I was logged in at work or anything. So last night, I finally get to that undead cavern. It's one of the first caverns, but I'm just doing shit out of order. This is the 4th dungeon I've done where the guys keep coming back, and I get that katana, and I'm
Ooh.
Hell yeah, I think I want this. It's fast. It's one-handed. That's what I like about my Lord Sword's Great Sword. I want something to be fast, but I want it to have a pretty good range. But I'm over here having anxiety. Is this the one? Should I blow all my smithing stones on this? How do you guys feel about what kind of weapon you need to be thinking about taking into the end game at the part that I'm in right now?
So you need to be thinking it this is a thing about these games is that enjoying the move set of a weapon is kind of, and feeling comfortable with it is kind of more important than anything else.
Awesome. Okay.
And also, like, eventually you're going to be able to buy smithing stones up to like at least +4, if not beyond that. So
oh hell yeah.
You can buy all of them except the highest level one.
Yeah, just invest. Eventually you'll have plenty of lower level ones. So if you like the weapon, if you want to, is it the Uchigatana?
I think so. You know, I just got it. I didn't start using it. But it's the one, you know, it's the one in that undead cavern where you're like, you're done with the boss and then you go back through and you're like, oh, there's an item and it's just an incredible weapon and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so if you like the moveset, like, go for it.
Yeah, okay, one of the characters starts with that weapon, and then I got the second one from that too, and then just dual wielded them for like the whole game.
That's cool. Dual wielding might be a little advanced for me.
Yeah, I'm using like the meat cleavers that the demi-humans carry. Like I just really like the moveset, and that is working awesome for me. So that is the weapon that I have pumped up and am having great success with. So
anything you like, if you're just in love with a weapon, like let's say I want to keep my Lord Sworn Greatsword, Lord Sworn Greatsword, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong. Like I'm not doing the wrong thing by upgrading something that I liked early game then, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. There's probably,
you are not doing anything wrong.
There's probably one condition that hasn't been mentioned that is worth noting though. Because what they're saying is right. Like, you know, you want to use weapons that are fun to use and the like, but you also want to make sure you're not beefing up a weapon that doesn't go along with what you've been investing your actual investment stats.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, if you found a weapon that seems really cool and it's based off of, it scales off of strength and you've been dumping into dex, you're investing money into a weapon that's ultimately not going to suit you long term for the time you've invested in your level.
You can respect.
Yeah, but no, that noted. That's good. That's good to note, because I did find that cool glowing blue sword, and I was like, oh hell yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. And then I saw it's got a bunch of decks, and although I started out as a rogue, a bandit or whatever, and I was like going to use bow and arrow, I'm all sword and shield now. This is what I settled into. So then I actually said no to that sword because I was like, I want to play one game where I'm not dumping everything into decks like I always do, so I can pull a bow. I want to like explore this route of like strength and shields because it is new to me.
I mean, yeah, like the respecking is in the game too, but to my knowledge, it's not as like straightforward. Just like, I'm ready to change it up a bit. Just go to this place and do it. Like there's time you have to work to get there, and then you have to find the resources to do it, and they're in limited supply. So it still stands to reason that you can respec if you want to mess around later, but until you can do it, you still want to do things in the way that suits what you've been doing. Like, I mean, because let's say, for example, you're like, okay, I didn't like this weapon. I didn't like the stat build up, but I spent all this on this weapon. I want to get into strength now or dex instead of strength. Well, now you got to wait till you can do the respec. You don't know where the hell that is or how long it's going to take you to get it. So, yeah, just play, have fun. But
so where is it and how long does it take you to get it?
Don't tell me where it is, but tell me how long it takes.
Yeah, well, that depends.
Well, yeah. No,
I had it before 80 hours, Brooke, so I don't know what to tell you.
I'm gone rogue over here.
On my second and third characters, I basically just rushed immediately towards that.
Awesome.
You get it in like 2 hours if you want.
Cool.
It's like how people mention the right staff.
Kind of design question is that I have seen mostly before the game came out, like some flap about like, oh my God, it doesn't have a quest log. It doesn't like, hold you by the nose from, when you get a prompt from an NPC to see that quest to an end, or it doesn't put points of interest on your map like, an Assassin's Creed or other Ubisoft-like game. There was a question here, I'm sure of it, but it was more like just like how do you feel about like, I mean, I don't feel like those features are a necessity. Like maybe it's something that would help other, players along. I keep a notebook with pen and paper next to me.
Old school.
I kind of enjoy not having like a checklist on the screen at all times. It just lets me feel like I am playing the game rather than sitting down and being like, okay, well, I got to go do this thing while I'm in this area, or what are your thoughts on that? There's a question.
I mean, I don't mind the lack of a quest log. Like that's part of what, like the game is good. Like Breath of the Wild also sort of didn't have a quest log. It kind of did, but it didn't like plaster your screen with like points of interest and go here and go there. Like that game started with you do the tutorial and then it gives you your mission, which is kill Ganon, and that's like okay, that's cool. Like it just like that's the mission. Like that they're not wrong, and then everything else you do is just trying to figure out how to do that, and that's the entire game. And Elden Ring sort of does a similar thing with that. Like it's pretty clear from the moment that you like step out into the world that I want to get to that big gigantic tree that's like just towering over everything and dominating the sky. Like you can tell that's what your goal is. It doesn't need to be like get to the Erd tree as like a quest thing. Like it doesn't need to tell you that. You see that there and you're like, oh yeah, I want to go there. It's probably important. It looks big and important.
The big important looking things usually are.
Yeah. Well, it's like people I think get the FOMO of like, well, that I ran into this guy who was like, oh, I need you to go and like reclaim my fortress, and then they're like, well, where's the fortress? And it doesn't matter. You have to find it. And this is particularly funny because this guy, I just recently remembered the existence of a bunch of characters from the early game, and I went back and talked to them, and like one guy immediately was like, yeah, I'm about to die. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing anything with you. I hope that wasn't interesting. But I went back to this other guy who was like, oh, good, you cleared out my fort. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to talk to you after I did that. And then,
I know you.
And then he went there. Yeah. But then, people feel like, oh, it sucks. I'm going to miss out on these quests if I don't do this, this, and this. And I'm just like, if you listen to what characters say and you think about it, like you can figure it out. And also, like, I have never, ever, ever played through one of these games and like not missed a shitload of things on my first playthrough just because I didn't think about them or go back to them or whatever. And for me, it's fine. But I can see how. Yeah, some people get upset by that.
So the one criticism of that I would kind of agree on is that so in Dark Souls and like Bloodborne and Sekiro, all the other games which are somewhat linear, they're a lot more linear than Elden Ring. But if you just talk to all the NPCs as you meet them, you have a pretty good chance of encountering them in their next location because you're going in order. So that sort of quest design in Dark Souls works pretty good because you just talk to the NPCs, listen to what they say. Usually there's not anything more than just talking to them and then finding them in the next area somewhere. But Elden Ring's so big and open that you can pretty easily, like an NPC will say something and then you will just not know where he is and you'll never run into him again for the rest of the game. It's not like a big deal. On the first file, I didn't worry about it too much. Like there's at least a couple of NPC quests that I don't think you can fuck up and are very clear about where to go, which is weird. Like it actually had NPC quests that I could beat without like following a guide. So despite the fact that the game makes it harder for a lot of the NPCs to just find where they are, it still had more NPC quests that I was able to beat, like complete without looking at a guide than the other ones. Also, they updated the game to show where the NPCs are.
That is true.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, that was after I already beat it. But I'm sure that helps a bit. I'm sure it helps because there are so many times when I'm like, I need to know where this character is.
Yeah, where was this guy?
Where was this character? Where was this shopkeeper? And now they're all on the map.
Wait, tell me more. They tell you, I'm looking at my map like right now. Maybe I need to run an update on this or something. You're saying
maybe
where they are now?
Well, they'll mark if you have.
There's a little NPC icon on the map, like near the warp point where they are. If you zoom in.
I gotta tell you, that is blowing my mind because I thought I just missed the markers when I started playing, and I placed my own map markers where the merchants were. A few days later, it updated, and I'm like, I'm over here like, I'm so fucking stupid. I put map markers on top of the map markers. And I'm like, I've really been giving myself a hard time. So they
just added them like 4 days ago.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Go though. Like I thought that was the cool thing about it too. They give you 100 markers, and I was definitely marking like the important ones, at least the ones I thought were important. Because apparently, one of the early ones was important, and I didn't realize it till someone just kind of accidentally spoiled it for me. But now I got to go back and talk to him at some point.
He has a fortress, right?
Yeah, the guy.
Oh my God, fuck that guy. By the way, can I just say it? No spoilers, but like,
why would you hate that guy? He didn't do anything.
I wouldn't give any spoilers, but exactly, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything, Pernell. You may want me to come clean up his mess. He didn't even do the thing he said he was going to do for me. That's all I'm going to say. Me and that guy.
Talk about the same guy.
Yeah, maybe we're not. I actually want to get you on chat after this and be like, yo, are we talking about this guy or this guy? Look at that.
You know what I mean? I'm all about talking the souls of the rings of Eldens. You know, the kind of guy I am this week.
Rings of Eldens.
But I do have one other question, that's a general big one for me, especially due to the game, one of the games I know you designed. So, you know, this is the one thing that everyone talks about when it comes to Souls games, their difficulty rating and the challenge and all that stuff. This is a two-stomper question, I guess. One, what is your take in regards to design, difficulty by design? And also, how do you feel in regards to this game's accessibility in regards to previous games in the franchise?
All right, so I do have a lot of thoughts about the difficulty, and they all sort of stem from something that I want to mention, which is that there's a lot of different kinds of difficulty. Like when people say that Dark Souls is difficult, they don't mean that it's difficult in like an I want to be the guy kind of way. Which I think that people who have not played the game don't understand the type of difficulty that Dark Souls was. Because I get a lot of people like, oh, I'm not into those types of massacre, like ridiculous difficult games. And I'm like, but like it's not like a massacre game. Like it doesn't trick you with dumbass traps that you force you to memorize where the like thing is gonna come out of nowhere and kill you. The bosses don't want you to like bang your head into them 200 times to beat. They generally, like in most of the Souls games I've played, I don't think I've ever like had to like beat my head against a boss for like 100 times to beat it. It's always been, you know, like maybe about 10 times in some of the harder ones, unless they're like, except for the really, really hard ones, most of the bosses, it's like maybe 10 times at most. Sometimes you beat it on a third or fourth try. But the difficulty in Dark Souls comes from just how different like the combat is compared to other games. Like it's just not the same controls. There's just so much to like that it does that's not what other games do, that you have to get used to and learn what the combat system is asking of you. And then when you do, the game's not that hard. But like the getting over that like that learning curve of figuring out what the game wants you to do is difficult for a lot of people. So I think that's sort of like, there's just sort of like a perception where people who haven't played the game think that it's, you know, I want to be the guy or whatever, or some type of troll game that's just hard for no reason. But that's not what it is.
Yeah, so, I totally agree.
Yeah, and people that have gotten to play Elden Ring who never played Dark Souls like have admitted that they finally seem to actually understand that that's like the type of difficulty it is. And Elden Ring does a better job of this than Dark Souls did. Because like Elden Ring has like that first boss that you encounter, Margit the Omen or whatever, but the very first like big story boss who's very hard when you first run into him. If you're thinking that the game is supposed to be like some type of massacre, I want to be the guy type thing, you would get to that boss and you would be like, well, this guy's ridiculous. How do they expect me to beat him? And then you would bash your head into him 50 times and then quit because you're like, oh, it's too hard. But like Elden Ring, like it makes it very clear that you have to do something else. Like you can't just go to that boss and bash your head into him and win. Like that's not what the game wants you to do. The world's huge and open, and you can go do all sorts of things in the open world and then come back once you've learned all the mechanics and leveled up and found all the stuff that you want. And then he's easy. And that's like the core of like what the difficulty in these games do. Like they put a wall there that is supposed to kill you over, like it's supposed to be a wall. You're supposed to not kill him right away. He's just there to teach you what the game is, basically.
And the fact
which is go everywhere else. Yeah, which is go somewhere else first and then come back. But like they do that in Sekiro as well. Like the boss Genichiro or whatever, who's like the second time you fight him, not the first time you fight him. He's sort of like the wall of that game in a way. Like he seems ridiculous if you haven't figured out how the combat system in that game works, because he just
attacks you, he'll just kill you over and over again. But once you understand that what the combat system is asking of you is to like not try to dodge his moves and to just get up into his face and be super aggro and block everything he does, he becomes like almost trivially easy to beat.
Mm-hmm. That actually happened to me last night with a boss, one of the mini bosses in this game. It was like one of those bears, but it was a bear with name and crap. So I'm playing as a mage, and I found the room for the first time with other players. So I walked in. The game was like, okay, you're allowed to come into the room. And I walk in, I'm like, where's the boss? And he just blindsides me from the left side and kills me. I didn't see him until I panned the camera around. So I was like, okay, that sucked. Came back the next time, fought him by myself. He killed me. I was trying to roll behind him and stuff and dodge, use my magic spells. Didn't take. So the next time I went back, I was like, screw this. I'm not going to beat him with magic. I can't stay away from him. He has too much movement, too much range. So I got in his armpit, started just punching him in his armpit. And he wanted to butt slam me. I timed it, rolled it into him. So
hell yeah!
Time started punching him in his legs, and all of a sudden, he wasn't a big issue. It was just knowing his attacks and being mindful of them. And
yeah, that's the thing. I don't think people realize is that like the enemies in these Souls games are very much slaves to their routines and their programming. Like they are. I don't want to call them. Yeah, they're dumb, kind of, but they're going to do the thing that they are programmed to do. They have their moves, their animations, like their patterns, their routines, and they are slaves to that. And like, because I saw someone criticizing like, oh, the stealth in this game is ridiculous because like you can stab a guy and like a guy 10 feet away won't do anything. I'm like, yeah, that's because they're dumb. He's just supposed to just stand there and not hear anything. Like that's what he's. And this is
stealth would be pointless if like you couldn't use stealth.
Yeah, they made the stealth like really forgiving in this game. I feel like in just how much noise you can make and how close you can get to guys without them seeing them. But like that's
sounds like a Skyrim influence to me.
Mm-hmm. But it's like the game is like can be very immersive with its environment and its worlds and kind of like really suck you in. But like the enemies are still like they are video game enemies that you can learn what they do and take advantage of it and overcome them, like if you just kind of watch them and think about it.
I love that you said exactly that too, because there's something about that which makes me sad because I can't, and I'm curious about what you guys think of this too. Like when I've been playing these since Demon Souls, and back then I was like, oh man, you got to play these games. I love them so much. And I would have friends who just were like, oh, this is too hard for me. I don't like this game. Or Pernell, you're insane. I don't know why you play these ridiculous games. And I had one friend that converted at Dark Souls 3 because he realized that co-op play was a lot of fun with you really have nothing to lose if you fail in co-op. But I still hear some people complaining every time a new game comes up, that's what they do. And the articles come about it. Everyone's saying make an easy mode, which is why I asked you about difficulty by design in that sense, because they're not adding easy modes. They're like, this is the game, play it. But with this game, while I agree, I feel that they made this game far more accessible as far as like having the ability to just walk away from a boss and do whatever you want, explore the world, just find a bunch of caves if you feel like it. I still have trouble recommending it to people because I've actually had people flat out say, I had one conversation that Joe might have saw actually where I said, so what is it about this game that, because he compared it to work. And I was like, why would you call this game work? And he goes, because it requires effort. And I said, that's a loaded response, because if you're saying the issue with a game is that it requires effort, why are you playing anything? Why don't you just watch a visual novel or something? Like,
ooh, diss on visual novels. That hurts. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, but
it's fair to not like games that require work to enjoy. It's perfectly fair. People can choose to just not like the game. The thing that I don't really like is when people use that as like a negative towards games that require that type of like effort.
Yeah.
Like just don't play it if you don't like that type of game. Like there's 1,000 other games out there that you'll like. Like it's not a big deal, honestly. Which is why those like all the conversations about easy modes and whatnot get tiring after a while, because it usually just feels like it's coming from people who just haven't played the game and don't really like don't have any investment in it, or like think that there's something that they're missing from it. Like that the game is is keeping something from them. Like, it's like there's this cool, awesome experience that the game is holding behind its difficulty, and if only you could just skip the bosses or whatever, you could get this crazy experience. It's like, no, not really.
Dude, I that hits really close to home for me. I want to jump in here really quick because I think I'm coming from like an opposite background of everyone else in this group right here tonight that's fallen totally head over heels in love with this game. This game's really taken me by surprise because I think of myself as somebody who doesn't like hard games, quote unquote. I say that all the time too. I do have games in my past where I've told people how far I've gotten or they watch me play and they'll be like, oh, you're pretty good at that. You've clearly practiced a lot, drilled a lot. But to be honest, most of the games and that type of playing has felt like it's behind me now, and it has been for years. And I felt for years now like I don't want to be challenged anymore. That's where I felt like I was at. I came onto the show being like, oh, I play a ton of games and visual novels, not even talking about my history as a gamer, which you guys have slowly gotten to know. And I play the Persona games on easy mode, easiest mode I can pick most games. And I think of myself who's into story and exploration all the time. Tyler, I'm thinking of myself as like, oh, if only this game wouldn't hide this feature I want behind a boss I can't beat or something like that. I find a lot of time when I do play a combat-heavy game, especially combat-heavy game with 3D graphics as opposed to like the 2D pixel type of shit I grew up on. A lot of the time I can't shut up about how much I love the story in Witcher. I love the story in the Dragon Age games. I love the world building in Divinity. I love how Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online are like really amazing walking simulators. But to be honest, a lot of the time in games like that, even games that I really love like Fallout 4, I'll do a lot of the combat in an easier mode. But even then, I'm kind of like begrudgingly playing through the combat to get to my next piece of story I want or whatever. And my friends, I kind of play into the gamer girl stereotype and like joking that up to my friends, but that it feels like it's become me. Elden Ring has given me, it's given me this sense of exploration and wonder and like accomplishment that I get from my favorite games that I feel are holding that back from me with combat. But somehow the difficulty of this game itself, rather than taking away that wonder and excitement, just adds so much more to it that I now find myself doing nothing but play this game, my super limited spare time. So I hear people talking about like the difficulty level of this game, how it might be isolating to players who aren't super into combat with a high learning curve like this game has. It seems like the complaint is people aren't going to try it because it seems too hard. And I got to tell you, I really do think it's only going to apply to people who don't actually just try it. Like, I didn't think I'd like it, given I've been told that this isn't a story-driven game and it's just about the fighting, which I don't think of myself as something I normally like. That was almost me too, dude. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but like I almost didn't try this game. And it's only been a few weeks, but that alternate reality of me not trying this game actually scares me because this is the most fun I've had. Y'all are laughing, but I'm going to start crying. This is the most fun I've had since 2015.
The thing is, like, there's a specific element that's required for that to happen for someone, and you happen to have that element, which is that.
Lucky, dude.
It's not necessarily about I don't want a challenge. It's that, and the reason why I wanted to mention is because I've had people lay out this feeling exactly as this. Like it's not even about, this game is too hard in the sense that I can't do it. It's more that if it requires you to do something more than once or twice, it's too much because they do enough in their day-to-day life. They don't want to have to do it in their games too. Like that's what actually said to me. I'm like, okay, I get that. But at the same time, like, I feel like I have to do the same thing everyone else does. I have the day-to-day grind bullshit too. I have to worry about hitting the life milestones, have a wife, kids, all that bullshit. But when a game gives me a challenge, I feel like it's something that it hits different when you succeed at a game. Like, it's an achievement that if you lose, I didn't lose like 3 years of my life I could have spent going for a different degree or a number of other fucking accolades that come from life experience. A game is literally, you can try until you succeed. And if you don't succeed, you can technically move on, but sometimes it's also the experience of trying. All you lose is the time you spent trying. And if you were okay trying, you didn't even lose that. It was an experience. And I try to get people to acknowledge that when sometimes it's like, look, you don't have to win. You're not required to win a game. Sometimes it's about trying to win the game. And doing the best you can and experiencing what you can. And the reason why that specific statement is important is because if winning is guaranteed and assured, you're not going to ever really be put to the test of like learning what you can and cannot do. And basically to, I guess, go beyond what you expected to be able to do. But I mean, maybe that was me rambling a bit, but I don't know. That's how.
No way,
I have no clue where
he was
where we were.
rambling a little bit. Yeah. Let's not take that away from him.
What really stuck out to me that Tyler said is like, I've been trying to put this into words, and then I kind of heard him say it out loud, and I was like, oh damn, like. When I talk about, I used to be younger and I played hard games, like I was playing bosses that it takes me 200 times and just pure muscle memory and memorization to beat it. And everyone's beating it the same way. I don't mind showing up in this game and getting the shit beaten out of me a bunch by a boss, or not even a boss, just a really hard enemy, because when I beat it, it doesn't feel like I had to do the same muscle memory and memorization that every other player did. It feels personal, like I'm making choices. And when Tyler was like, you might play 10, 15 times against the boss and you're not banging your head against the wall in that like drilling way that we all know. Like each time you're playing it, like you really are picking up on different things. You're trying to figure it out. Like you can read guides for this game all you want, but when you're in there, like in that physical zone and trying to figure it out and like build upon your like experiences with that enemy from there, like I didn't think I liked that anymore, but it's magical. And it just, the days that I tried really hard and I actually got there and I told myself, I'm not even good at 3D combat games, and I somehow got there and I felt like I did it my own way. Like, y'all, my depression is like cured right now. Like this shit is like, this is like reawaken the dragon in me.
Yeah.
Reawaken the dragon. That's fantastic.
Brooke Hayabusa, that's your new name for me.
Oh man. Well, Tyler, I know we've had you on for a while. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss that we didn't bring up? I know you didn't have too much time with us tonight, so I don't want to keep you too long.
I think that pretty much covers it. Elden Ring is a good game.
Yeah.
Pretty good, man.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to joining all y'all's next Tuesday.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm looking forward to
Chris
it,
is going to have it next week. I guess I got to fire it up. You guys are convincing me. I gotta get it myself and give it a go.
It's at least worth a shot, dude. Like if you don't like it, totally cool. But like I am scared.
I think I'll like it. I'm worried about how much time I'm going to need for it. Because y'all are scaring me with like, I got 120 hours in it. I'm like, shit, I don't have 120 hours.
So it's okay, Joe. You'll find the time.
I want to say
the doctors told me I don't have 120 hours.
First thing, you just got to
I have 134 hours. I just checked.
Like,
nice.
Wow.
But just haven't booted it up.
Yeah.
Oh God! So first of all, the fuck, boot it up after the show. The second thing.
It'd be like Pernell, boot it up now.
Exactly. And then the second thing, though, is that it's not about, I find the time. It's like, time is enjoyed. Like, if you're having fun with the game, you'll keep going. And if you're not having fun, you'll stop. It's that simple. Like, how often
I know how games work, Pernell. I've played them before.
I know. So in that
I've been there. I've done it like once or twice.
That means that you know you'll have the time. That's the answer is then. You know you'll have the time. So just play the damn game. You'll like it. And then
I know I don't have the time.
I'll
find the time just for you guys. Next week
Thank you, Joe.
We'll reconvene on our Elden Ring discussion. But Tyler, thank you so much for joining us this week and hanging out with us and chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
Real quick, tell us about what you're doing and where people could keep up to date with you and what's going on.
Well, the place where people can keep up to date with me is my Twitter account at Tyler Glaiel. That's TYLERGLAIEL. I'm currently working on a game called Mewgenics. It's still probably about like 2 years away, so it's not coming out anytime soon. But I am constantly posting little GIFs and images of it on my Twitter account. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we will keep an eye out on that. We will include a link to your Twitter in our show notes so people could give you a follow and check you out and follow what you're doing. Again, thank you so much for joining us and chatting Elden Ring with us. Do you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
Just enjoy the game. It eats all the time that you have. So yeah. Take a week off and play nothing but Elden Ring like I did.
Oh man.
Don't tempt me. I'm considering.
Pernell's calling off tomorrow.
I find all my friends. I got to call first. That's the option.
Yeah, I work for myself, so it's easy enough to take a week off. I still
That's fair.
Forcing to having to make up all the work afterwards is the fun part. That's the real Elden Ring.
The Elden Ring we made along the way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. We will let you get going. You have yourself a wonderful night.
All right, you guys too.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
The Elden Ring.
How long have you been sitting on that?
About 10 seconds.
Oh.
Nothing's gonna top Pernell Ring. Okay, let's put it to bed. We already had
SM Elden
Elden Ring was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
I love it, but I love it a little bit less than Pernell Ring. Pernell Ring just has a really good like
It does.
like a
Ring
cadence
to it.
and ring to it. Yes, thank you.
Brooke on that, just because it's awesome and someone else said it, I didn't have to be the guy who was like, self-indulgence. No, Brooke said it, so I can agree with it. Done.
Well,
So
that's our show,
reviews,
right?
should we get to those?
Fuck.
We got shit to do.
I suppose so.
All right, let's get started. We have a bunch of games to talk about. First one to talk about tonight is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, code provided to us by Square Enix for the purpose of this review, as is the case with all of our reviews, but gotta disclose it with this one extra hard. So we are hashtag sponsored. Developed by Team Ninja, published by Square Enix, released March 18th on Xbox One, Series X and S, PS4, PS5, and Epic Game Store for $59.99. In this hardcore action RPG, Jack must hazard numerous challenges to bring the light of the crystals back to Cornelia, a kingdom conquered by darkness. Will restoring the crystal's light usher in peace or a new form of darkness, or perhaps something else entirely? Pernell, tell us about your time with Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin.
Get this out of the way right out the top. So when I heard about this game, when I saw the initial trailers for it, I laughed my ass off at it. It was pretty much someone took Final Fantasy 1, gave it to Tetsuya Nomura, said, here, add some zippers and whatever weird bendy shit you love to do with your games. And of course, the dialogue in the trailer didn't help either. It was like, what the hell's going on with this game? I don't know what I'm getting into here. So
Getting into chaos.
yeah, chaos. So it was really interesting when Joe was like, hey, you want to review this game? I was like, you know what? For $3.99, I'll give it a try. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm really glad that happened because I had this game all wrong. Like, it's enjoyable. Then I got that. What the hell is the game? Well, like I said earlier, this game is essentially not 100% a retelling. It's a re-envisioning of Final Fantasy 1 in regards to exploring the world on this particular quest to defeat chaos. Though in this game, chaos exists from the start in regards to being referenced and dialogued and whatever. Jack and his friends are on a quest to locate and kill chaos, but this quest takes them through a number of different environments on a quest to restore the crystals, just like the original game. But unlike the original game, this takes an action RPG spin. You're moving through environments and engaging in combat designed by Team Ninja. So this will not be, Babby's just mash X to win game, though technically it kind of can be if you set the lowest difficulty in the game. But typically you're going to be working on it, and you'll be working through a number of really interesting combat systems that they put into place. So this game has a job system in regards to the fact that your teammates that you can have, in regards you can have 2 members at a time working with you, have one job assigned to them, and later can get some other ones that you can switch them to. But Jack of all trades, that couldn't have been a coincidence, I'm sure of it, actually can have 2 jobs equipped at a time, and he can switch between them at the press of a button. And when he switches between jobs, he gets new attacks, he gets new equipment associated with those that he has equipped in the status screen, and essentially just on-the-fly work.
Can I just say that I really appreciate the commitment to keeping the name to 4 letters.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. You're right. That is awesome. I hope
That's awesome.
That's also intentional. I really, really do. There's something really cool about that. But it's been pretty cool, honestly. Like, just in regards to the number of the nods this game has. To the classic game. But that's one I did not catch. So when you basically can switch between the jobs on the fly. Now, in a particular job, you're going to have a specific style of play. You have a basic attack, which is your R1 button, which sometimes can be charged depending on the character type. And who am I kidding? There's just a bunch of different combat styles depending on how you play. So I'm just going to name a few things like you have to use charge, use your basic attack. The R2 button is more so like your secondary, like special attack. Usually styled to be like button press, where if you didn't hit R1 at all, it doesn't attack. If you hit R1, then do R2 as a second type of attack. Same for 2 times in that, and so forth. So it's like a sort of like special combo button. And as you gain job points, you can level up the job to gain new perks and effects, some of which are new attacks to go into those slots. So you kind of start to modify your attack layout for that respective job. You'll get things like guard count, guard building and stuff like that. In addition to the actual attacks, though, you also have 2 types of guarding, and this is pretty weirdly important in this game. There's a basic guard where, hit L1, you put your guard up, defend against attacks. But as you take attacks, you'll slowly start to kind of whittle down your guard gauge, and if you overdo it, you'll get stun locked and then get wrecked by enemies. And I mean, you'll get wrecked, so don't do that. The other type of guarding is the really tough one, but totally worth doing. This is called soul. It's like a soul attack or soul. I don't know. It's like soul attack. What this does is you put up a guard, and while you have it up, your guard gauge just drops like on its own. So you can't just kind of hold it and spam it. You have to time it as well as possible. But the perks to this is that if you take attacks that are guarded with the soul counter, you'll get more MP. Like you'll refill your MP because there's no ethers in this game. MP is going to be coming back from doing things like this. And the other thing you can do with it is there's certain attacks that enemies do, and if they launch them into you and you soul counter it, it's pretty much like a blue mage. You'll actually steal the attack and can use it on them to do stuff. You get limited uses of it, but you can still have like a new attack to kind of play around with. Now, the last thing I should mention in regards to the jobs is how you unlock them. So as you play through the game and unlock opening treasure chests, you'll find weapons. The moment you find a weapon of a specific type, you'll unlock the job that's associated with that weapon. So basic stance, you find a katana, you unlock the Ronin job. You find a lance, you unlock the Lancer job. And with that, you unlock their respective job trees. As you level these jobs up and put job points into them, at the bottom of their job trees, you'll find like unlock keys to other jobs, like the more advanced jobs. So for example, to unlock the Red Mage, you have to max out a job tree, of the Sword Master and also of like the Mage job. You do those 2 things, you get the Red Mage, and that brings with it a new combat style and new things to unlock, and so on and so forth. And I didn't even get into all the stuff about like attuning yourself, like getting like the higher you attune the job, the more perks you unlock for that job, like higher, break damage, more intellect damage and stuff like that. There's actually a lot that goes on in the combat system in this game. You can essentially unlock new jobs for your secondary characters by fulfilling side missions in the game, and in some cases, just on par job missions in the game. So just playing the game, you'll get new things for them. You can kind of give them new jobs so they can play a little differently, but it's more likely that they're advanced job versions or whatever. I rambled a lot about the combat and the jobs, but just know that shit's awesome, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll enjoy playing around with it. The actual exploration of the game, though, it's not a ton going on there. This isn't like typical RPG. You're not going to go to towns and talk to townspeople and go to the shop. There are no shops in this game. You're not buying anything. Equipment is solely done based off of loot dropped by enemies and found in treasure chests. You're going to be swimming in it. You're going to be spending time throwing items away and dismantling them. So get used to that. I am just drowning and constantly hitting the 500 item peak. But that's how it goes sometimes. As far as it goes, you will, unless you put on the easy difficulty, which thankfully you can go between lowest and highest difficulty pretty much at any save point. That's kind of a nice facet this game put into it. And the higher the difficulty, the better the loot drops you'll get. So there's a perk to even doing that. It's not as simple as you want to get challenged, bro, or whatever. It's like, no, there's actually perks to it, which is kind of nice. But you'll be retrying bosses and stuff like that because the boss fights are very intricate. I'll be honest with you, I didn't put it on the hardest difficulty. I put it on the middle one, and I had to retry the first boss a good 4 or 5 times. He kicked the shit out of me, and I was kind of embarrassed by that. But hey, I'm old. I'm allowed to be. Get over. But I stuck with it, persevered, and realized, kind of how we were talking about with Elden Ring earlier, I had to. This was pretty much the learning moment of the game. Like, I got to learn the combat. I got to suck it up and deal with it, figure it out, and I did. And I had a great time doing it. And then I got my ass kicked on the next boss, but I did it again, so it worked out. Last thing I'll mention about the fun things about this game is the fact that it's kind of funny how on each level they have cactuars and tonberries hidden in the levels. And if you find them, they are pretty much like super enemies in the game that give you cool loot or experience points if you beat them. But they are true to themselves in the game. Cactuars run away from you. You have to chase after them. But sometimes they'll stop and through 1,000 needles. And if they hit you, you're kind of just going to die from it. Whereas tonberries are just freaking evil. They slow you down. And then while you're slow, they'll just come up and stab you and one hit kill you. And of course, if you die, you get sent back to the last save point and have to run on from there. Oh, very important thing I should have mentioned. I totally forgot. And this will lay into one of the cons anyway, so it's good that it comes up now. Tonberries will end up killing you. Now, when you do die, whether by a tonberry or anything really, you'll go back to the last save point and you'll be able to keep going. The only thing you lose, however, is your MP gauge, because earlier I mentioned how using soul crushes will get your MP gauge to increase. However, dying will cause your MP gauge to decrease. And when I say get, I mean your max MP level. So in order to get your MP to go back up, you're out there soul crushing jerks again and building it back up. I'm okay with that, kind of, except for when you're dealing with bosses, because it's kind of annoying to get to a boss. You're still trying to figure out what makes him tick. He kills you. You go back to the save point, but now you have less MP than what you started with. So in order to get more MP, if you see fit to do so, you got to go fight mobs to soul crush them to get more MP to go try him again. Kind of an annoyance there, but I also get that you don't technically have to do that. If you want to just kind of get the soul boots during the fight itself, you can technically do that. Just it's going to be harder for you. That's all. But I got to say, this game has been a lot of fun for me. Even the cringe that everybody has been talking so much about, I feel like it's almost part of the trick. Like, they leaned into that. It's part of the humor. There's a part in the game, I mentioned it in my Facebook even, where early on in the game, he meets a character who's telling him something the main character hears. He's telling the main character something he doesn't want to hear. The main character says, "Oh, fuck this." He turns around, puts new metal on.
Now he says, "Bullshit," and puts fucking new metal on.
and he just walks away. He's just like, "I don't give a shit." And the fact that one, all this happens, and two, the fact that he has a cell phone in the first place, it's kind of shocked to me, made me laugh my ass off. And I was like, you know what? This is cringe that I can get behind. If this is the cringe they're talking about, I want more of this. I am okay with it. Every game doesn't have to be serious, and every game doesn't have to be to the mark. And if someone's saying, but dude, this is Final Fantasy. No, this is Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise. It's a spinoff. They can do what the fuck they want.
It feels like they took inspiration from Army of Two and how they broed it up a bit.
Yes. And it's good broing, because like I like the camaraderie the characters have. I kind of laugh at the whole, like, everything's about chaos. Like, hey, we need you to help restore the crystals. Fuck that. Where's chaos? Like, chaos is where the crystals like, well, damn it, fine, I'll do that or whatever. Too. Like, there's no altruism here. They're not heroes per se. They're on a mission, yeah, but there's none of that lovey-dovey, we're here to save the world crap. They want to beat chaos, and damn it, they're going to find him wherever the hell he is. I'm enjoying it.
It's a $60 venture to fight chaos. Is it worth the trip?
It's worth it. $60.
Chaos is gonna die for $59.99.
These are all gold.
Your ass. It's such a good game. I think it's genuinely worth $60.
I'm Erelon the dancer.
Oh man! If I had to
Erelon the dancer whips out an 8-string guitar and just starts genting.
Yes. Now I'm gonna have to find gent music for the end of the show, aren't I?
Heck yeah!
Make it happen.
Oh, Mega Beardo has the lead gent of Zelda.
Oh yeah.
So we'll just play something off that. So yeah,
that word
Pernell,
play is as good as the guitar play.
Yeah, I know, it's good shit. Pernell, your official verdict at $60. What are you thinking of this one?
I genuinely find it to be a buy. Like, don't let the the internet jokery and even the trailer initially, steer you away from this game. If you're okay with action combat games of a Team Ninja with a Team Ninja seal of approval on it, I do not believe you'll be disappointed with this product. And obviously, like I say, even the environments are ridiculously beautiful to look at as you're running around them. Like, they did a great job with this game. It is definitely worth your money.
Cool. All right. Well, next up is Shredders, developed by FoamPunch, High Illusions, and Let It Roll, published by FoamPunch. It released March 17th on Xbox Series X and S, Windows 10, and Steam for $29.99. Break into the snowboarding event of the year in hopes of scoring a wildcard entry to an exclusive invitational to prove you're up to the challenge. Master the art of park riding, buttering, rails, and massive kickers to earn your place in the world of snowboarding. I'm sure I sounded like a complete newbie saying those terms, so Tim, tell us, what did I say?
Oh, you sounded so cool, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
I can tell that you snowboard a lot.
Tons. I am pro level at falling.
I've never been. I don't think I probably snowboarded a little bit when I was a very much younger, but I'm definitely a fan of riding down hills on things in the snow. But I got to close the chat so it doesn't distract me. Anyways, yeah, Shredders. This is a snowboarding game, wherein you ride down a snowy mountain on a board. It is a pretty decent. I think it looks pretty solid. I like the vistas, the just mountains blanketed with snow. I think that part looks nice, and that's a good part of the game. But let's talk about the rest of it.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh yeah. I think it's really weird. I think they're trying to do like an pseudo open world thing for like no reason, where you can kind of like explore certain mountainside maps like on your own to find things and like, because you can go down the hill, but you can also summon eventually if you're not doing a mission, a snowmobile to like take you back up the hill, or just kind of drive you around if you want. But the main focus I felt of the game was on just kind of like the missions that they give you. The whole framework of the game is like, oh, you're snowboarders, and then like some. I don't know if you go into the game being an influencer, or you just end up rolling up and finding some influencer. Oh, let's get this sick video and put it on Insta sort of people. But that's kind of like the framework for the game. And it fucking sucks because it is so annoying. Oh my God. Like, the only thing worse than like real influencer like content is like fake influencer content. Just like when you're just trying to hit that vibe and trying to be cool, it is so grating. And there's like a full, intro and outro to every mission with somebody yammering at you about, putting what you're doing up on YouTube. And I cannot mash to skip fast enough on those. It is so grating, but they don't skip like immediately. Like, it takes a few seconds just because I'm sure they're like, oh, are you sure we don't want people accidentally buttoning through this like fantastic stuff we did? But it's like the voice acting is bad, the writing is bad, like it's just bad. I would rather just jump into a mission and do the thing, though of course then some of these missions do have context you need like a little bit to have when you go into them, but sometimes it's just like, well, I'm just going down to do hit some tricks and do this thing or whatever. The real problem I have with this game is really just controlling it doesn't feel good. I think it's going for kind of a skate, like the skateboarder game Skate sort of feel, except for snowboarding, where you are, it's not like the Tony Hawk style, which is what I enjoy the most and get the most out of. Like in this game, it's like your left stick, when you're going off of a ramp, when you're hitting the air, is responsible for like your like doing flips, like going front flips, back flips. Your right stick is responsible for doing spins, and then like you hit like each bumper has its own grab set, presumably for your left and right hands. And then you combine hitting those bumpers with like tilting the stick in a certain direction to pull off a particular trick. And it does not feel intuitive to me. And
I was going to say, it feels kind of it sounds kind of cumbersome just how you're describing it.
It feels very cumbersome. I think a lot of that could have been solved by having the spinning and the flipping all on one stick rather than having to do. It's just, I keep getting crossed up thinking of like, it just needed to be consolidated more, in my opinion. But the other problem is like when you're trying to do a direction on when you're trying to adhere to 8-way directionals on an analog stick, you're going to have a bad time. It just doesn't, it's hard to hit those like straight diagonals or even lefts and rights like consistently. Like Tony Hawk is something I always played on a D-pad, not on an analog stick. So I can hit those, those diagonals, hits, downs, ups, and all that stuff. And same with fighting games. And then when this game is having you do that, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, to do this mission, like I need to copy the trick of this guy who's snowboarding with me, and I just can't fucking do it. It's like I feel like I'm hitting the direction that I should be. And even sometimes when I try to overcompensate for it, it's like it's just not getting the grab move that I need. And like when you're setting up to do like a flip or a spin, it wants you to hold the direction, like it wants you to hold left if you're going to do a spin to the right. And this is probably why they have that segmented off to another stick, though I think it would work just as well if like, okay, I jump off the ramp and then I hit to the right. Like why I know you're trying to hit like a certain piece of like realism here with like how you do it on a snowboard. It's like you lean your body weight to the left and then use that to jerk around. But I don't feel like it works as well on a controller. But that said, like I felt like it was a total crapshoot as to whether I would go off a ramp and my character would elegantly do a spin as I commanded, or whether he would just kind of like listlessly like kind of soar into the air like a wounded goose and like not really spin, or spin like way too many times, or like suddenly flip upside down and just crash on his head. And then it's like, oh man, now I've crashed. Now I can hold a button to shred, which puts me roughly back where I was, or reset, which takes you back to the beginning of the level. And another weird thing is that when it loads you into a mission, and again, this kind of ties into where I think it's like this, they're going for some kind of open world, is like you'll pick a mission from the menu and it will drop you near the mission, and then you have to snowboard your ass down to it. And it's like, why? Just start me at the mission spawn, guy. Yeah. And it's not like you're standing on the side of a mountain like just it spawns you to a menu where you make a selection for the mission you're going to do. You're not like, oh, it's going to put me on the mountain and then I can snowboard down to some hovering icons, go be like, oh, what's that? Like, no, I'm literally picking something from list and then it drops me and then I have to snowboard for 30 seconds to get there. Like, just get me there, please. Some of the missions, it's like they, like, you'll go down. They'll reuse these little like kind of trick courses over and over again, which is fine. It's totally fine because you're doing different stuff on them. But it's like, okay, I need to hit this many. I need to do this many flips. I need to do do this, hit a score point, doing different tricks. They decided to, for some reason, lift the worst mission type out of Assassin's Creed and drop it in here, where you have to follow a guy, but not too close, but not too far away, on a snowboard. And it's like, why are you doing this to me? Like, that mission sucks. Like in Assassin's Creed, why would I want to do that in snowboarding and like have to tail a guy but keep my distance at the same time? And excuse me. There's some where it's just like, okay, we're snowboarding down this hill and we're doing jumps over a van that is also racing down the hill. But it's like, sometimes I feel like I would even just like going downhill, I felt like sometimes I wouldn't have great control over my snowboard, and I would just kind of start like going off instead of like going in the direction I was tilting the stick. there's definitely some like performance issues with the game, just in terms of like its, inconsistencies in the frame rate. Something I definitely didn't love early on, and this kind of goes away once you get past the tutorials, is like it's giving you the tutorial for how to do a front flip, but it prompts you like right when you're hitting the lip of the ramp, and then like it's there for a second and completely messes up your timing, and then every time you're retrying it, trying to hit a front flip, it's always there fucking you up. And that was in like the first 5 minutes of the game, and it was really pissing me off, but I gotta soldier on and see more. Eventually, it's like, just tell me once, or just have it, like, it was just freezing the gameplay and mucking up my timing. And it's like, yes, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm having difficulty executing because your tutorial's popping up in my face. But like in general, the missions aren't it's pretty, like, nothing was like terribly mind blowing. It's sled down, hit this ramp, do this sort of trick, hit, beat this person in a race. They actually have ones where you go down and you collect giant floating letters that spell out shred. So that's pretty on the nose. But I just like the problem I just kept running into is just like I am struggling to feel good controlling this snowboarder, and just getting him down the mountain, and I felt like every time I was hitting a jump was a crapshoot. Like the trick system seemed like overly convoluted with like, okay, what bumper do I have to hold down to, and with direction to hit this trick that they want me to hit, and it just ended up not being a lot of fun.
Well, the game's $29.99. I need a verdict on it. What are your thoughts?
I would not buy it. Good for you guys. It's on Game Pass, so you can just easily try it. And that seems ideal. Fire it up on Game Pass, and maybe these controls will meld with you. You can see what it's all about, but I would not be exchanging American currency for this game.
Yeah, I was about to bring up, if you're on the fence, you could check it out through Game Pass, but you did my job for me, so I don't have to say that.
Yeah, I can't believe it took us so long. Man, it took us so long to mention Game Pass on this episode.
I know.
Yeah, Elden Ring's going to be the new meme of like, how long before we say something about Elden Ring in an episode, bumping Game Pass out of its meme slot.
Oh, man. Well, that is it for you, Tim. We will let you get going.
Yeah, I bid you all good night.
Night, Tim.
Do you have
night, Brooke.
Any final words?
Brooke, you see they announced they're making a new Witcher game?
Oh, yeah, I saw it. It was like, I woke up in the middle of the night, checked my phone, and I was like, oh my God. And Carrie's like, dude, what the fuck is happening? I'm so pumped right now. I know there's not a release date in sight, but like, yeah, I saw that.
I like the idea that you just felt something in the ether, and you like, I imagine you sitting straight up in bed and just like.
I never wake up in the middle of the night too. So maybe there's something to that. I'm so pumped.
So yeah. I'm also pumped, and hopefully, I mean, by the time it comes out, I should be done with Elden Ring by then, probably.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Have a good one.
I will.
All right, next up is Galgun Double Peace, developed by INTI Creates, published by PQube, released March 17th on the Switch for $39.99. When an unsuspecting student is shot by Cupid's arrows, he becomes the most irresistible guy in school. Only by using his trusty pheromone shot can he fend off the advancing hordes of girls and find his true love. Outrageously colorful and hilariously lewd, Galgun Double Peace is one of Japan's best loved and critically acclaimed shooters. Pernell, tell us about your time with Galgun Double Peace.
Well, Galgun Double Peace is essentially a stage shooting game broken up by stages, where you are pretty much walking around the grounds of your school and also the streets surrounding the school at the early part of the game. And as you are progressing through the level, various girls are running up to you. See, the gimmick, as Joe mentioned, is that you have been supercharged by an angel's arrow, or angel's bullet in this case. And whereas she was trying to help you fall in love with one girl, she overdoes it. And now as a result, you're supercharged and every woman in the area loves you and wants you. But that's only for 24 hours. And after 24 hours, everyone will come to hate you because you have used up your love's luck, so to speak, because she overdid the shot. So the goal of the game is to find your true love in one day, because if you don't, you'll be doomed to be hated by everyone. But for this one day, every girl in her under the sun loves you and is running up to you to advance you and express love. And you're trying to keep them away. And because this is a really odd game, the way to decide to do that was to have you shoot them with your pheromone shot to get them to orgasm in the street. And then as a result, they disappear into flowers and rainbows or whatever. And essentially, that's how
what exactly is unrealistic about that?
Boy, I mean, I don't have that level of charm, but I have heard some people say at the bar there are legendary individuals who seem to be capable of doing such a thing. They won't share their secrets, though. Jerkbags. Maybe I need Cupid's gunshot or whatever to pull it off for me. But in the case of this game, the main character's already got the moxie and the luck. He's doing the do. So like in a typical shooter, the girls are coming out from all different areas of the screen, either left, right, up, down, wherever. And when you see them on the screen, you fire a number of shots at them to make them go away. If you shoot them normally, you can just take a couple of shots depending on how much power you've invested in through the game's in-game store. But there's also a button that you can use that gives you a sort of X-ray vision, which has a couple of effects. One, it allows you to look around and look behind objects on the map to find potential hidden objects for points or collectible purposes. It allows you to see underneath some of the girls' clothing, because of course it does. But it also, from a game strategic standpoint, helps you find their specific spots. I'm just going to call them G-spots, because I don't like come up with another word for it. And if you hit them there, it's like a one-hit orgasm. And they just drop and they're done. They call it euphoria. I don't have time for that. It's an orgasm. Just move it on. So this is essentially the main loop of the game. You're seeing girls are coming at you. Sometimes they're throwing like letters at you. Sometimes they're actually professing their love for you verbally, which comes at you in the form of like giant floating text that you have to shoot out of the sky before it connects with you. But you're basically doing this throughout the course of most of the game. Now, another thing you can do is as you're taking these girls down and you're charging up a heart gauge. Once it gets to a certain point, you can do what's called basically like a Doki Doki sequence, where you can press the button and you have a few seconds to highlight as many of the girls as you can. And then once you do that, you go into this weird like spinning camera mode where the girls are all collected and you have to touch them in their erogenous zones as quickly as possible to max out their erogenous gauges so that they all orgasm at the exact same time, drop a Doki Doki bomb, which takes out all the other girls in the vicinity, and you get to move on. Yeah. So that's pretty much of the game. At a certain point in the game, they eventually start to display like these little angels and demons that float around the girls. And if you shoot them, because basically while they're on them, they're almost like supercharged girls. Like their feelings are out of control. And like, for example, if a demon's on the girl, she'll go from loving you to she loves you so much she wants to kill you. So she'll run up on you and she catches you, she'll start stomping your crotch to do damage to you. So in order to prevent yourself from getting crotch stomped, you got to shoot the little demon first, which you can only see by using that X-ray vision thing. And then you can take the girl out in normal means like you always do. And the angels are almost the same thing, except it's like super love instead of super hate. And after you've done that concept, that's pretty much how you normally do levels. There's these occasional like weird like story sequences, depending on the route you choose for which girl you fall in love with, where they have you do like odd double pervy things. Like it'll be like this thing where like the girls try to put down, like, this is like the early one, so it's not much of a spoiler. Girls trying to put down like a demon trap, which is like glue trap. She falls on it. You got to help her get up by shooting demons off her, which is essentially still shoot G-spot. She goes, oh yeah, help me, or whatever. And then once you've done that, you have to then grab her and pull her off of the glue. But the camera angles are essentially like, you're not pulling on her. You're doing the other thing, but you're technically pulling her. It's freaking weird. They went perv extreme on this game. And that's pretty much the main game, aside from the occasional boss, which is essentially like hitting girls, but or shooting the girls with the pheromone shot, but you got to shoot them multiple times, and sometimes use the zero vision to like see behind like walls and stuff, to like hit like weakness spots and stuff like that. There are like end stage missions where if you find certain objects for girls, or like that's all of them. Finding certain objects for girls, they'll reward you with angel feathers, which you get in addition to just beating stages, which is the currency for the school store, which you use to increase your pheromone shot power, your pheromone charge shot power, your I guess like I'm not even sure what the green was because I never bought any. And then you can do like purchase like extra cameras for Doki Doki camera angles, panning, extra like almost armor items to protect your crotch stomps and your ears from like, when the girls scream at you and all that stuff. Like armor for different types of attacks. And then you can donate to the girl, the school store owner's band, and she'll give you like story dialogue each time you donate to her band. It's weird in that the game itself is actually not bad. It's actually it's pretty fun sometimes, except I wish there was more to it than just the girls. Like I was joking about this at one point. Well, I wasn't joking. I was dead serious in that I always complain as an old man that I wish games kind of grew up with me in some respects. Like I wish they weren't always teenagers at high schools and shit. And this game would have been a prime example of how much better this could have been. Imagine if instead of being a high school girl, giving high school girls orgasms in the street, you were an adult person giving adult people orgasms in the street. Now, yeah, it doesn't sound too different, except for the fact that, well, all the characters could have jobs. And mean that all the characters coming at you could be like enemy types based on different jobs and careers. Like the business women can be throwing like freaking like portfolios at you. The firewoman can be throwing fire, like hitting you with a fire hose or something like that. Just different types of attacks based on the different careers the women have.
Are you looking for shit to make sense in a fan service game?
No. Quite the contrary. Sense. But I feel like by doing that, not only would it cover the do of like Pernell wants more adult games in the sense of like actual aged characters, but I think it would actually add to the gameplay experience too, because again, all the girls in this game were running at you, handing you notes, and screaming, "I love you." But imagine if the girls were women with different jobs. The different jobs determine the classes of the girls coming at you, which affected their attacks and their behavior patterns and all that stuff. Like it would have actually, to me, it would change the game up quite a bit as far as like how you're engaging the shooting gallery, so to speak. But unfortunately, it was aside from just my general unfortunate is all high school girls. I feel like that also limited the potential for gameplay too. But I think my biggest complaint, being that this is a port to the Switch of a game that's been out on the Vita and also the PlayStation 4 years ago, is the fact that they didn't take that time window and incorporate touchscreen controls. I think that would have been pretty cool to have like this like shooting gallery thing. It was like, okay, now you're tapping everything. So it's like maybe like speed it up or something like that. I don't know. It'd have been pretty interesting. But as the game itself is already, if you're already down with everything I described as far as like what the game consists of gameplay wise and the themes that are in place here, I think you'll enjoy actually playing the game. It is a fun title. And it's not terribly long. Most of the length of it comes from going back and doing like trying to do the other girl's route basically. But aside from that, I mean, like, I think the game is decent. It's a fun time.
Well, it's $40. What are your thoughts?
I would say it's a genuine try at least. I don't want to go with a buy it per se, just because, like I said, there were some things I wish they did more to like increase the variety of the gameplay. But I feel like what it is there is also still fun. So for the cost, it's more of a try, so that, you know, if this is your sort of cup of tea and you're okay with the full price for it, give it
I'm kind of let down because apparently this was in development for Xbox and Microsoft. They denied the game.
I'm actually kind of surprised by that too. Like,
I think that's a total shit move by Microsoft. I think you should let developers release whatever games they want.
Well, the only thing I'm gonna say there is that normally I'd agree, but is this par for the course of them otherwise, or is it like a first time sort of thing?
It's well, they don't get many Japanese games like this coming around in the first place. So the fact that they had one come their way and they declined it is just kind of frustrating, that they had a chance to get part of that demographic and part of that. I don't know, what would you call that segment of the gaming audience?
And I say, as a person who looked at the game and was like, I was probably a part of that audience, honestly. So I'm not even knocking it. But I would say, I'm not even sure what I'd call it, because it's not particularly perv gamer or anything. It's not particularly hikikomori gamer. It's just, I don't know, guys who like games that involve like sexual, I don't know, references and stuff. I don't know.
Bring it to Xbox, Microsoft. Stop being bitches. Moving on, next game to talk about is Ashwalkers, developed by Studio Nameless 13, published by Dear Villagers, released March 10th on the Switch for $19.99. Face the dark corners of your humanity and find out what lurks in the shadows. The non-linear story challenges players to make meaningful choices in complex moral dilemmas. Brooke, tell us about your time with Ashwalkers.
All right, hold up. Okay. Let's jump in here. Ashwalkers. Hey, you know what that means. I'm going to do kind of a 360 review here where I'm going to tell you why we didn't review it last week and then tell you what I think the game's supposed to be like and then round out how I'm going to rate this bad boy because I do think it's an awesome idea. I think it's a potentially amazing game. I think it's really cool. But I started it up a week or two ago or whenever I got it. And within a few hours of playing it, I went to Joe and I said, hey, I don't know if this is optimized for Switch. I actually don't know if this is really playable for Switch. Do you want to reach out to the developer and see, like, are they aware of the issues that I'm experiencing that I would think it maybe makes this, well, definitely makes it unplayable for Switch, in my opinion. Can I hold off the review because I didn't want to come on here and bash it. And I know this isn't the first release of the game. And I know the game has gotten pretty good reviews for other systems. Joe was like, sure, let's shoot him an email. Let's hold off. We hadn't heard back like by last Tuesday. So we decided to push it a little bit. They got back to us recently and said, no patch is planned. Go ahead and talk about it as soon as you want. So I'm just going to jump in here. This game's got a lot going on. I really want to compare it to Oregon Trail. If Oregon Trail kind of had like a cool 3D graphics and a map I could click around on. It's got resource management, team management, allotting resources to different members of your team based on their stats and needs, collecting materials, crafting to an extent. A lot going on here. It's got one of my favorite things a game can possibly have, which is branching narratives depending on how you RP out the story socially. You're controlling a team of 4 people, each of these folks as a character that kind of represents a different archetype of person and a different take you might have at each like plot choice you're presented with as the story progresses. You got Petra. She's like this brave captain chick, super logical, straightforward thinking. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but this chick's like definitely a Gryffindor, if you know what I mean. She's really like going for it. Then you got Sin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. S-I-N-H. He's big, strong, fighty dude, impulsive. Each of these characters is kind of like a stereotype of characters to lead you into these choices that they might prompt you to take. Kali is a young, naive diplomat type dude. And then you've got Nadir. He's a cautious, conservative, yet experienced scout. So he has a conservative play style that's less based on a lack of real-world experience, like some might see Kali, the young, naive diplomat, all rose-colored glasses, empathetic type. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. There's like, you'll be checking out a map, and there's a fork in the road, and you'll click physically if you want to go left or right on this 3D map on the fork in the road. And even that part will be narrated like differently than just between you picking left and right. I took a screenshot. I actually want to read what it said. So you can either choose head west or head east. And you kind of have this Dungeons and Dragons style narrator going, hey, 2 paths open up before the squad. To the west lies a territory inhabited by wild animals, if the tracks in the ash are to be believed. To the east sprawls a cold, rugged, winding valley. So it's really like, it's not a super linear game.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, kind of. But even more than that, like more so than a visual novel, like this has a lot of like tactile resource management and allotment going on. If you do see an enemy, like a possible enemy, if you see another character or an animal on the map and you're not even sure yet if they're going to be hostile towards you, you might have 2 choices pop up. And the first one's Sin, who's prompting you to do what he wants to do, draw weapons and get ready for a fight, no matter what's going to happen next. He's assuming that we're getting into a fight. While Kali, the diplomat dude, might, he doesn't want to draw weapons. He wants to see where this goes. Are they humanoid at all? Let's talk this out. Let's see what happens. I think this could be a really cool game because after I had my experience that I had with it, and I'll go into detail in just a second on that, I knew this isn't what they must have envisioned for Switch. Like, I don't know if no playtesting was done or what really happened here, but I went and watched part of a playthrough of the Steam release on PC. And when I saw somebody rolling around the screen, clicking on the map and the characters would walk to the map, and when I saw them pull up dialogue and text boxes and be able to zoom in on that and read that and just have things kind of work the way they were supposed to do, I said, oh, this makes so much sense. I bet this is a great PC game, but I can go ahead and launch into the rating part if you want, Joe.
Well, yeah. What's going on with the problems with this one at $20? What kind of issues did you stumble upon?
Well, I got to give it a solid deny it. And first reason I have to do that is there's a ton of broken text from the tutorial on where there are just lots of words missing. And this isn't actually my biggest concern with the game. This isn't the main thing that makes it unplayable to me, but that's a pretty big problem. Instead of several words just in the first few seconds of the game, you're seeing huge spaces and then like a slash mark in the letter N. I played through that. I was like, maybe I'm dumb and I just don't get it. I'm getting context clues so I can kind of figure out what to do. But then I started walking around in the game and started trying to like grab resources, just click around the map to move. And that just really wasn't working right either. At this point, I'm passing tutorial, like, how do I move? How do I do these basic things that it's trying to get me to play? Finally, I went out into the big open world and was just a camp and was trying to read all the narrative and options, just all the words on the screen. And I don't have particularly bad vision, but I couldn't read it, dude. Like I couldn't read anything past the first part of the tutorial unless I put my Switch in the dock and read it from the TV. Like I'm not talking about if I hold the Switch up to my face 1 inch away, like you still can't see it. You have to put it into the TV. And then so I'm sitting on the couch and I still can't see the words from the couch on my TV. So I had to like roll up a chair and I'm like 4 inches from the screen and I'm still struggling to make out a lot of the words. You cannot play this game handheld at all. So I don't understand releasing it on Switch without being able to optimize it for a way to where handheld play is possible.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate.
It's so sad because this could be a really, really cool game. I love what they're doing. Like, I love that it like pulls at my heartstrings and reminds me of like Oregon Trail on speed with a shitload of options and crafting and stats and all this awesome stuff and like all this cool like Dungeons and Dragons stuff going on. I even really like the graphics. If you want to pull it up, I think it's really charming. But ultimately, this is a game about walking around and reading, and you can't do either of those with this release. So. Sad to say, I got to call this one and deny it. But if the devs are listening to this, I'll completely play this again in the future. I'd love to play an updated version, and I'd love to update my review from there if anything sticks from here.
Well, if we hear any updates or if we get prompted for any updates, we will be sure to take another look and amend our review if need be. But it sounds like Steam is the way to go if you want to try this one.
I would say so for sure. But the good, I did watch some of that walkthrough on Steam. It seems to work awesome. So if you want to try this out, I don't think this is a deny it across the board. I think it really is just the Switch release.
And it is a little cheaper on Steam. It's only $12 on Steam. So if you're interested, there you go. Speaking of Steam, next game is Instruments of Destruction, developed and published by Radiangames, released March 2nd on Steam Early Access for $19.99. Instruments of Destruction is a vehicle building sandbox featuring advanced physics-based destruction. Create crazy construction vehicles and use them to demolish buildings and complete various objectives. Chris, tell us about your time with Instruments of Destruction.
Instruments of Destruction.
Instruments.
It's no Pernell's Chaos earlier, but that's pretty good, dude.
Chaos.
It's my Final Fantasy Gent band name. Oh wait, no, there actually is already a Final Fantasy Gent band. Damn it.
Is there?
Anyway, yeah, Knights of the Round.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's too many. There's way too many bands that I forget, like the basic ones.
Yeah,
I'll forget the one up soon. Don't worry.
That's okay. I'm saying on behalf of the one up.
Who's Mustin?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, Instruments of Destruction. You made me forget the name. So yeah, this is like I said, a sandbox game. Really, it's so okay. Basically, I have to like draw from other things to like kind of describe this game, but this will work, I think. Okay, so think Blast Corps on the NES or the Nintendo 64, right? So like taking vehicles and destroying buildings and stuff. Although Blast Corps did actually have like kind of a plot, like they had kind of stakes because you had to time it because there's like a nuclear reactor or a nuclear bomb like on a truck that's like you have to clear the path for it. They did not bother with such things in this game. It's just you go in and you have objectives. Destroy these buildings. Don't destroy these buildings. Stay within a certain budget. We'll get to that in a second. Different types of little things like that. So it's like kind of like that Blast Corps. Destruction of things. And then it's like Legos, like the Technic sets. I don't know if you remember those, but they were like the more advanced Legos where you were like actually putting together like kind of rudimentary machine parts and stuff, gears and levers and, joints and whatnot. So basically what you do is you start a stage and you set about building your tool of destruction. You start off with just like the little cockpit for the whoever, the person driving, I guess. It's the only essential part. Everything else is like, it's just a menu, like several menus of building blocks and just your imagination. Unless you're playing the game part. If you're playing the game part, then you do have limits. Like they'll say, like the first stage, it's like keep the budget under $30,000. So like each part has an associated cost, and it's only just to keep you from using up all 750 pieces that the game would otherwise allow you to use. And so yeah, that's game. And then Sandbox is basically where you get to play the same stages if you've unlocked them, and it's like, okay, there's no limits. Just build whatever the hell you want within this very reasonable amount of pieces of machinery, because otherwise it's going to slow the game down too much. And the pieces of machinery are things like, on top of like the building blocks, pulleys, levers, wheels, and tank treads, what have you, bulldozer, shovels, and or what do you call them, blades. You also can like just put in a freaking cannon or like a chainsaw, and it super is like your imagination is the limit, because as soon as you're done building the thing, you push the start button or whatever, and it drops that machine into the world. And if you if you made it too top heavy, it's just gonna fall over. And you're like, okay, well, I'm done. So you can pull it back and like actually workshop it and stuff. Like, it's all about building a thing that works and destroys things in a way that makes you very, very happy. And that is this game's greatest strength, is that it is all about giving you like it. It takes a while. Eventually, but they give you so much freedom that like it just takes you a while to like kind of learn what all you can do, and then from there your imagination just kind of takes over. Like you've just got this endless supply of like free Legos, and what can you do with that? You can make a Ferris wheel of chainsaws. Somebody on YouTube did that. And you can make a vehicle entirely out of rocket propulsion things, out of rockets, and just make it have a spinning propeller blade that's like about a mile wide, and just go, just fire all the rockets at once. Why not? That is something that has happened, and it's like you can build like a fully functional robot if you really want to. It's crazy. And that's the cool thing, is that everything in the game that has a function, you can assign it a key on the keyboard, or like, you can do some stuff with the controller, but like keyboard's really where it's at. You can have your stuff like doing all kinds of crazy shit. And that really is where people are going to get their value out of this game. And I would invite you to check it out. Check out this game on YouTube and see the vehicles that people have been building, because holy jeez, somebody built a fully functioning flying hammer.
Oh Jesus. This reminds me of a couple of years ago we saw that game Besiege.
Oh yeah,
where people would just like create these big structures to
fucking
kill enemies. And Lloyd Berry with the Prime subscription. Thank you so much, Lloyd. 6 months they've been subscribed. But
a flying hammer straight to our hearts.
I'm reminded of Besiege with this, but much more pretty and destructy and
yeah,
absolutely insane. The physics in this game look nuts.
Yeah, it's insane, and the physics are very realistic. The graphics are very like clean and nice. Like it has. It's hard to describe, but it's like that kind of graphic style where everything looks like really super realistic, but it's kind of blurry around the edges. And the destruction looks incredible. Like stuff just crumbling under your machinery is really nice. And like, getting a ball and chain and just slinging it around and like having it sling your actual machine around because it doesn't weigh enough is like incredible. And then it's like, okay, yeah, you could weigh down your machine, or you could maybe attach more rockets to it. Just go all the way with it. The only thing is, if you fall into the water, you got to start the stage over, but you get to keep your thing. So yeah, it's really crazy like that. And the other cool thing about it is that there is, you unlock vehicles as you beat levels. Of course, they provided a cheat code that lets you just unlock all of them right away, but that's not important. What is important is that you can download from Steam, from the community, the really, really crazy machines that they've built. There's 15 categories of insane machines that the users of this game have built. It's not, and each one is just like page after page after page. And just download it and start the level with it and play around with it, or change it, and then upload it yourself. It's so much. And they're always a good way to kind of start start and figure out a good idea, and then you can just take that idea and just multiply it by 10 if you want to. So that's those are the great things about the game, and they are truly great. If you were a Lego kid, or if you're into Technic or Erector sets, or Kinects, anything like that, the cool toys that had you building stuff, this is already an instant win. Now for the actual gameplay, it's a little light on levels and real challenge, as far as because again, you can build. It's kind of building within the limits on the actual gameplay stages, and there's not a whole ton of stages or anything. But again, this is gonna be the appeal of this game is in a different direction. But yeah, if you are expecting to play Blast Corps, where it's you have to destroy these buildings in this much time using these sets of machines and stuff, it's not really that. The other thing about it is that, yes, they do give you a huge ceiling, just a really tall ceiling for what you can do in this game. You can make stuff that's about as big as some of the levels. However, that comes at a cost. And that cost is, of course, CPU and frame rate. This game, I mentioned that big machine that a user made that was just all rockets. I mean, yeah, it was fun to use, but eventually I was down to 1 frame a second by the time I started running into some buildings with that. So, and that's expected. But yeah, it did crawl a little bit when the machines got a little bit large. And you can set all kinds of settings to kind of compensate for that in your PC. But if you're expecting this game to look as good as it does, and build a drill that will pierce the heavens, then you might end up kind of compromising your performance a little bit. But hey, that's not too bad.
Unless you got a beefy machine.
Exactly. There you go.
Well, this one is sitting in Steam Early Access. They plan to have it in Early Access for at least a year, with multiple years more likely. The full version will add more islands, more objectives, more vehicle parts.
Okay, that's good, because I was thinking, I hope that they're planning on fleshing out that single player experience a little bit, or that that campaign experience a little more.
They say, though the initial version will be satisfying to play, the exact direction and additional content for the game will be partially driven by community feedback. So it kind of seems like this is a proof of concept at first, and the direction of the gameplay is going to kind of come down to how people play it and what goes on with the community. So $20 on this one. Is this worth people checking out? Should people wish list this one? Is it worth getting financially invested in this one now?
I would say the latter. This is a buy it. It's a very good concept and very well executed, and I really hope that they get to do more stuff. And of course, if I've got their ear, the thing I want the most is 2-player battle mode. Build 2 robots, empty field, just sick them against each other.
That
just
might be
kaiju
fun.
Style. Oh man, be amazing.
Nice. All right. Well, next game is Jetboard Joust, developed by BitBull, published by Freedom Games, released March 11th on Xbox One, Series X and S, PS4, and PS5 for $9.99. An intense arcade-style bullet hell shmup in which you must master a vast array of ridiculous weaponry in order to defeat a race of evil aliens who are intent on abducting innocent civilians and turning them into mutants. Don't expect a story, expect frantic, fluid, fast-paced, 60 frames per second action, big guns, and explosions. Pernell, tell us about your time with Jetboard Joust.
I actually really like that that flavor text they gave you, because it really does cover a lot of what I ended up coming to like about this game. This title is very straightforward, throws you right into it. The idea is that you are playing on every level really is a wrapped stage, so it circles around on itself. And the goal is to defeat all the enemies on the level. Now, the idea behind it is that the enemies themselves just kind of spawn out onto the field. You yourself are piloting a jetboard that hovers up and down and can go left or right. So 4 directions. Enemies will spawn onto the map, and they will be coming at you with guns blazing. And they all have a variety of different guns. There's some really cool ones, some of which are weapons that you can ultimately find during your playthrough. And others are weapons of their own choice, from what I gather. So these enemies are coming out. Now, you're just ultimately trying to kill them without them killing you. You're flying left or up and down, and as they're shooting at you, you can fire back at them, but you have to be facing them when you do. So you can't, unless there's a button I didn't find, there's no strafing button where you can face one direction while firing in the other. You have to literally be facing them to shoot, which makes for some interesting dogfight gameplay where you're kind of flying around in circles, trying to turn around and pop a shot and then flying forward again, because your momentum is also based on holding forward for a decent amount of time. So you kind of just build up your speed and you go. Now, as the dogfight itself is progressing, there are a variety of different enemies, but enemies that are also piloting jetboards have a secondary objective on these stages aside from killing you. And that is abducting civilians that are populated on the map. In addition to just looking at the map on the top of the screen, you will also occasionally hear someone go, yeah! And arrow flashing on either the left or right side of the screen, indicating someone's about to get abducted. Get your ass in gear. When this is happening, you need to rush over as soon as you can and catch the guy mid-abduction. And if you can catch him and kill the person trying to kidnap the person away, they'll fall back to the ground and they'll be safe and sound. If you fail to rescue them, they will be abducted, and the unit that abducted them will be transformed into a stronger unit that is going to hunt you down. So you kind of don't want to deal with them. They're not unstoppable killing forces like some games when they do this, but they're still a pain in the ass. You don't want to deal with it. Plus, you get a bonus for saving all the humans all the people on the stage. So don't let them get kidnapped. You have a basic pistol weapon that you fire, but in addition to that, you also have 2 sub weapons that you can earn and carry around on your play. Now, this isn't like the traditional sub weapon game where you have 2 weapons and you just switch between them on the fly. In actuality, you can only switch between your main weapon and one of your sub-weapons at the press of a button. The other one will sometimes be laid on the stage in the form of a crate that you have to fly over and pick up. And then when you pick that up, the other sub-weapon will be replacing that one on the field in a crate. So it's actually kind of interesting in that it forces you to kind of juggle the items that's actually in your inventory, despite the fact that you can still only have 2 weapons being carried around at one time. From what I could tell anyway, unless I've been just selling weapons so quickly because I couldn't afford to do anything. But that's what I came to take away from it. Now, weapons have ammo caches, and they also have repair statuses. From what I could tell, because I was really frugal with my bullets, repair status determines 1, the weapon itself just being in your inventory, and 2, how often ammo spawns on the stage. The more in disrepair the weapon is, the less likely ammo will spawn from an enemy for that weapon. But you can also find repair items later on the stage to repair them, and also you can repair them at the end of a level if you pay money to upgrade it, which I'll get to shortly, technically. Now, when you beat a level, you get a choice. You can either exit the stage flat out, or you can pick up the key that's on the ground and use that. Or not pick up a key, rather. Go to the actual treasure chamber and fly over the flashing light that's above it to trigger a boss to show up that will attack you. If you can defeat that boss, the boss will drop a key, which you take back to the place you went to summon them, and it will open up a treasure vault, which will have money and an item based on the stage that you decided to go to. It can be a number of things: money, upgrades, new weapons, key to unlock a teleporter, which will allow you to warp to that area of the stage upon death, and more. After a level, you are sent back to a store where you can either upgrade your weapons, and that's where I mentioned before, where if you upgrade a weapon, you will get It'll have like a higher ammo cache. It'll deal more damage. You'll repair it. Basically, it just becomes a better weapon. You can do that. You can upgrade your Jetboard, which will give you more joustings, which I'm not thinking about. I didn't mention the joust, but I'll tell you that in a second anyway. You upgrade the joust, you can upgrade the amount of damage your ship does, and it's just basically better. And you can upgrade your actual character shields, which gives you more defense power, occasionally more like defensive abilities, and just honestly, just the health was enough for me because things start to kick your ass. And then lastly, you can choose to sell weapons that you've already found for extra money. Because in addition to showing you the cost of the actual upgrades, they always make a point to show you how much it will cost to purchase an emergency jet suit. Because if you die, you don't have any lives, the game is over. But you can spend a decent sum of cash, which increases as you get further into the game, to give yourself an emergency resurrection and keep going. Now, the joust in the aforementioned title of the game is something I wish I mentioned when I was talking about shooting everything. Because in addition to shooting enemies with your guns, the joust is an extra ability that you have where you can kind of jump off the board, dash forward, and it gives you frames of invincibility, and it just like does damage to everyone in your path. It's almost like a get out of death free card for if you're like surrounded or you need to just really rock somebody out because you're about to kidnap a civilian or whatever. You will do that dash, kill enemies, and get loot. One last thing to mention about the combat is that when you kill normal enemies, they drop money. The money is what you use to purchase stuff in the store. However, if you kill the Jetboarders that I mentioned before, the ones that are trying to abduct the civilians, they drop shields. They don't stay on the stage. Instead, they fall to the ground, bounce once, and then disappear. But if you can catch them, they heal you. So it becomes this interesting situation where you'll be killing enemies sometimes like, man, I really need a Jetboarder to come out. I need to get some shield back up. I need to kill a Jetboarder quick. And otherwise, you're like, if you're already juiced up, you're like, I need more enemies, more normal enemies. I need to get more money to make shopping purchase decisions. Now, the last thing I should mention is that after every level, you are given a choice on what level to go to next. It's always, well, not always, because you're on the outside of the board, you only get one. But it's generally two choices. And you get to choose between where you're going to go based on what rewards could exist there, pretty much inside the treasure vault. It could be like a new weapon, a free weapon upgrade, a free Jetboard upgrade, a free armor upgrade, a key to unlock a teleporter for warping purposes, so on and so forth. And it makes for a nice little fun choice. Nothing that's going to make you break your back to figure out. It's just, hey, what reward do I really want this time? Because honestly, unless you're in truly dire straits, you should never forego opening that damn treasure vault. Fight the damn boss and get your key. This game surprised me too. Like it reminded me a lot of the PS4 launch game WrestleGun, which was done by House Marquee. And I say that because House Marquee is a well-known development studio in the Sony's second party box. And
their first party.
I thought they were second party.
Nope, Sony owns they own Housemarque.
In that case, first party. But by saying that, I make this comparison because the gameplay styles are very similar. But I also found this game to be pretty freaking fun. Like, it had some elements to it that I wish WrestleGun had. Most notably, the different weapons you can find and that juggling effect of knowing when's the right time to use these cool weapons to do these things to keep the ball rolling and get myself out of jail here. Like, you have more options and more abilities and more flexibility in how you play. And there's more variety because there's a lot of different enemies in this game. And even though the backgrounds don't really truly change a ton, they're really cool to see when you get to new planets and you have like these like monochrome planets or orange planets or green planets. It just looks nice. I had a lot of fun with this. It's been a good time. And I foresee myself playing more of it because no, I didn't finish it. But I intend to go back and play more of it.
Well, it's $10. What do you think?
Buy this shit.
Okay.
It's good.
I fucking will then. All right. I know Carnage really liked this one. It's basically like a new Defender.
Defender's the one with the crap. It's been ages for me. Now I'm thinking Missile Command. I don't know what the fuck Defender is.
Defender's the one that
we
plays
had this
exactly
conversation,
like
right?
this. Now, I know we had a conversation like this before.
The difference between Missile Command and Defender?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Defender's a shmup where you can turn both ways.
Yeah. This is
kind of
like
Fantasy Zone.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. In that case, yeah,
Defender's what that's based on.
In that case, that makes sense. That means that all those games, even the one I mentioned earlier, is likely based off of Defender too.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, well, one final game to talk about tonight is called Inukari Chase of Deception, developed by Einzelartig Games, published by RedDeerGames, released March 18th on Xbox One and Switch for $7.99. At a time when people have stopped respecting wildlife, bad things have begun to happen in the world, but someone has lit the small candle in your shrine, so they're calling you. Restore the order, peace, and connect people back with nature. You are their last hope. Chris, what's going on in Inukari?
You are Captain Planet.
Captain Planet? Do tell.
No. It's more like, well, I don't know. It's hard to like compare this to too many things, but it's basically like a ninja game in spirit. It's like a ninja game crossed with like Sonic the Hedgehog, because it's all about running through stages and grabbing those things and climbing up walls and stuff, like wall jumping, lots of wall jumping, but then it's like, whenever you defeat an enemy, like a cute little like actual animal pops out because you're rescuing animals. Let's call it Fern Gully by way of like Sonic the Hedgehog. This is being way too complimentary about it though. Okay, so you play as crap. I meant to have it open in front of me so I could quit forgetting this name. Inukari. That's you. You are a god that is taking the form of a tiny fox with like little knives, and basically you are to run through a bunch of stages and fight a bunch of enemies or a bunch of animals that have been covered with like gunky slime, and if you actually when you hit them, the slime falls off and then they become adorable animals again and they're all your friends. So that's basically the gist of the game. It is all about platforming. There's no exploration here. You go from left to right, one side of the screen to the other. There are coins to collect. As far as I know, the only purpose for the coins is just more points so that you can eventually get like a 1-up. So like, Mario style. There's no need to collect all of them. Once you get through enough stages, of course, you run into a boss. There's dialogue. There's a storyline here. It's lots of, I can't believe you, my friend animal, have been covered in slime and turned into an enemy. And the other guy's like, yes, I am an enemy. I will fight you now and defeat you today. And then they like run at you, and then you figure out their pattern quickly and whack them. So basically, that's kind of all there is, really. There's not a whole lot of depth to this game, and that's not even getting to the complaints yet. But for one, the things that I like about this game, graphics look nice. It's small scale pixel art. That is to say, it occupies that weird space in that it's not super like detailed or anything. So it looks like it could maybe be an old game, but it doesn't. Like the backgrounds give it away. They're too detailed. So it's like, it's this kind of, it's like pixel art indie game. Like that's the only way I can describe it. It doesn't look like any particular kind of game. It's just, your character's very small, which I don't really get because it seemed like the sprite could be bigger and the game would still function just fine. And the soundtrack's kind of nice. It's got that sort of, it's a moody kind of, almost a traditional Japanese kind of sound, but not quite. But I found the soundtrack, chill enough. And so here's the thing about this game, though. There's two pretty big problems here. One is the frame rate. The frame rate, for no reason at all, is constantly chugging. Like to the point where I was actually starting to feel like kind of bad, like having to look at the game as it scrolled by, like, just it was so choppy that it's like it started to make me kind of like not dizzy, but I was just like, I don't want to look at this anymore. So that's the one thing, but that's not even the worst thing. The worst thing is that it is buggy. If you pause the game and unpause it, there's a pretty good chance it's going to freeze and you're going to have to close it and reopen it. The other thing about it is that when I first played it, so you use like different buttons for different items and weapons and stuff. I'm playing it on Switch, Carnage, and like, there's like shurikens and a feather move, which I actually don't know what that is yet. But your main attack is a sword, which is actually just kind of, I think it's just your hand painted blue. Like, it's so short. It's like, it's Lagoon style. You're fighting things with a plastic spoon, which is fine because like the jumping is kind of nice. The game is overall a little bit floaty. But it kind of serves pretty well. Because if you attack something, then your whole character sprite is like doing damage, so you don't really have to like line your sword up with anything. Just get the timing down. But eventually, the game just decided you don't need that sword anymore, and so it just locked up my Y button. I couldn't use it until I reset the game, including dying and getting a game over and starting the game entirely over.
That's
nothing.
Weird.
And I was like, dude, like, is this a feature or what? Because this game doesn't explain a damn thing. It literally doesn't tell you anything except for like the beginning dialogue, which is, the animals are covered in slime. Go help them out. And you're like, okay, yeah, I better do that because that's what I do. Like, they don't tell you anything about the gameplay or what to expect. So when it locked up my weapon, I was like, did I have limited ammo on that or something? Like, how limited is your, like, did I just run out of like blue paint or something? And so like, then I reset the game, started the game entirely over, and then just like sailed right to the first boss. And I was like, oh, okay. So the game just dropped it. So yeah, caution is advised if you're going to be playing this on the Switch.
Jeez, well, we need some kind of decision on this. The game is sitting. This is another confusing one. It's $7.99 on the Switch. It's $6.99 on Xbox. It's on sale for like $5 and change on Xbox, but it's also on sale for $1.99 on Switch.
Whoa.
Is the $2 worth it at that with the issues that you're running into? Or
honestly, if this game was running like just fine and I was literally just judging it by the stuff that wasn't broken, I would still say at best it's a try it. But given the issues, I'm going to give this a deny it. It's going to make your head hurt if you like look at it. This is a person who never got a headache once despite owning a Virtual Boy at like game graphics, and I was having troubles with this one. So
jeez.
Just don't go near it. Apparently the Xbox version is better.
Yeah, Carnage saying he didn't run into any of the frame rate issues that you did, but
and I'm gonna say, like, if you want a similar game to this, it's a lot more fun. Go check out Ninja Striker because that is a great game.
Cool. All right. Well, that is it for this episode. I made it through another one. A lot of Elden Ring talk. Holy shit! This is 3 weeks in a row. It's a fucking Elden Ring podcast.
I know. By the time I actually start to play it, y'all are gonna be like, oh.
Oh, that game again.
We've moved on.
Chris and I will be ready to talk about it in 2 weeks, and you'll be like, what? Hello?
I'll be like, oh, yeah, I just got to that guy for the first time, and Pernell and Tim will be like, what the fuck?
I don't even remember that.
Elden Ring, we've moved on to We've all moved on to Melvin's necklace at this.
We're all playing Galgun now. Oh, man. All right. Well, music this episode, we're going to play something from Mega Beardo from his Legend of Zelda album. Since we talked about that. So we will play something from that. A huge thanks to Tyler for coming on, hanging out with us, basically on like a day notice to just come on and chat about Elden Ring with us.
Awesome.
Really cool of him to come on, hang out with us, chat with us. Anyone have any final words to end the episode?
Happy late birthday to Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. You. Can we get is he going to cut off the recording before or after we start singing? That's what I want to know.
Oh, he won't. Or he will.
Let's find out. Go.
Happy. You guys, I'm going to freaking kill y'all. And you guys, why am I surprised?
Hey, I was getting it in. I had to clear my throat. I was like, happy birthday, Mr. Joe Cam. Hope you're happy you were born, because we hang out a lot on the internet. We love you, dude. You wacky bitch. Play more games and take a shit. We love you. You're a good dude.
Wow.
Keep being awesome.
I'm just letting him go. I'm not stopping this. I'm just letting this shit go.
He's lying. He already stopped recording.
No, I didn't.
No one ever hear those dulcet tones of ridiculous verbiage.
This is so good. I'm still, what was that song you read a couple weeks ago? That's a Monday. So good. I had that stuck in my head all day and I didn't even hear it, dude. You just typed it.
Oh yeah, the one where you have to show your mug.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good song.
That's a Monday. Yeah, but for a happy birthday, Joe.
Happy birthday, dude.